Cincinnati 16-yard line. Patterson, the 8th touchdown game last season, Joe. Playing for the University of Buffalo against Kent State.
8-1 game.
8-1 game.
Unbelievable.
We mentioned last week he had a Joe Theismann poster on his wall, thrown up in Maryland.
Rumor has it.
Now Patterson split out wide to the left. Second down and 10. Time down in quarter number 1. Patrick over the middle. That's nearly intercepted.
That's the second time that Adam Humphries and Fitz have not been on the same page. He starts to come inside now. See, that time Fitz let him inside, and Adam was going to work outside. But got lucky on that one.
Marcus Bailey getting a hand on it. And as you alluded to, Humphries knows Ryan Fitzpatrick as well as anybody on this Washington roster from the time they spent together down in Tampa. McKissick in the backfield, third down and 10. Fitzpatrick and Sileo looking for Humphries.
Right toe is down, hits the second foot with the left, and then the right toe touches again near the sideline. I think it'll stand as a catch.
All right, so what's better, basement or booth?
You know, I much prefer being with you guys. It's a little brighter up there with all these lights. Rather than the third basement. He's got his officiating hand things and wrist things. I mean, he's not messing around, man.
He's ready to go.
He is not messing around.
In postseason form. He's got his own camera over there, his own setup. TV star.
You guys came in early and put all this up. I know you did.
He's got his own catering down there, I think.
He's in.
Looks inbounds there. This morning we weren't going to see a lot of challenges, right?
Well, they did it for you. We won up here in the booth for us. Got a double header.
Got the new assistants with the replay official upstairs. That should lessen challenges by head coaches during the regular season.
Yeah, one of the rule changes this year is
When Washington started winning football games, it's 5 for 5 under 40, 13 for 14 overall, 8 out of 9 over 40. It's just taking some time to get comfortable with the speed of the snap coming back. Having had the opportunity to hold for, our 1982 MVP Mark Mosley, you just can't appreciate the sensitivity of the snap, getting it down, and the confidence that the kicker has to have to just trust that's all going to work out fine. If it gets there,
Jeopardy host who
it
resigned.
changes some of his thought process. I know they're going to find it comfortable.
Jeopardy host who resigned.
Mike Richards. According to NPR, after weeks of speculation, Jeopardy! Executive producer Mike Richards was announced as the new host of the show. Friday, Richards resigned after offensive past comments he made in podcasts emerged.
Really?
Every weekday. Late first quarter, Washington and Cincinnati tied 3 apiece. Brandon Allen and the Bengals offense. Allen started 5 games last season following the injury suffered by Burrow. He started 3 games for the Denver Broncos back in 2019.
63% completion rate. Solid.
9 seconds remaining in the quarter. Allen to the outside. Tackle made by Darren McTire as Todd winds down. Catch is made by Mike Thomas. The first quarter comes to an end in Landover, Maryland. Preseason game number 2 for the Washington football team. Tied at 3 with Cincinnati. Second quarter. Up next.
Tonight, I'll be eating cheesy cauliflower pizza with extra broccoli.
My turn. Tonight, I'll be eating cheesy cauliflower pizza and yummy broccolini.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Is that my leotard?
No.
You can keep it. Some carriers give you so little for your older busted phone. Not Verizon. You dunk it.
I think we just called him JB.
We upgrade it. Up to $800.
I'm trying to
for
think.
any phone you want. Plus, get $500 when you switch.
Do we have a nickname
Everyone
for him?
deserves better.
Doing it yourself doesn't have to mean all by yourself.
Dude, I think we just called him JB. I'm trying to think.
Never been easier. You can pick up skills in a virtual workshop. Pick up what you need fast or have it delivered same day. And if you have more projects than you have time to do them,
They called me and him Salt and Pepper.
This is doing like never before. This is the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
We just said JB, man. Called us Salt and Pepper, me and Jerome. I think Paterno called us Salt and Pepper too, because Matt Millen and Bruce Clark were the original.
Most live games on NFL Network. It's time for football. Week 2 of the NFL preseason live on NFL Network.
I don't know, man. That Eagles team, man. Dude, you got to play better than that. You got to be better than that.
First quarter stats brought to you by USAA, official salute service partner of the Washington football team. Though the Bengals picked up only one.
USAA, oh my God. I had a great conversation with them today.
Offensively, it was good to see him get a drive together. I'm sure that the first unit will stay out on the field, try and put another one up, maybe even
I am very close to getting USAA. I don't. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Like, I may be broadcasting live from Radio Row in the Army Navy game this year for this show and the stream show. I had a great conversation with them. So, yeah, that is a really good buy. Mm-hmm. And of course, because they love big cells, and it's what it is. Who doesn't? My buggy shoes. Okay. Tony Casillas. Okay. So we'll go 4 minutes. 3. Okay. My boogie shoes. This kid that we had on today, his name was Josh Tolentino from Philadelphia. He writes for the Philadelphia Inquirer, and he is now writing. He came from Miami. I'm gonna tell you something, man. He better toughen up. I love the kid too, but it's not the great. He needs a little. I don't know about seasoning. I think it's more toughness. Thank you, Trev. I think it's a little too laid back for a city like Philly. Oh, he said seasoning. And it's just, he was a little bit like, I don't want to use the word soft, but it was like, if you're in Philadelphia and you're writing columns about yeah, I don't think he fits in with the dude. Like when you write in Philly, there's got to be a sharpness to your writing. No. But I think your persona has to be that you sound like you're from there. Yeah, I mean, the problem that WFAN had when they initially opened up, they had national guys and it didn't sound like they were from New York. That whole thing changed around when they had guys that sounded like from New York. I mean, when you put Bart Scott on the radio in New York, he's not from New York. He's like from Baltimore or some shit. He's not from that area, and he sounded it. He's from Detroit? Yeah, okay, but then he's clearly not going to sound like he's from New York. Like when you put Howard Stern in Detroit, that wasn't going to cut it. He bombed. He bombed there locally. Yeah, okay, well, Greaseman didn't help. I get it. The weather guy thing was funny as shit, though. Dude, that was awesome. Imagine doing a skit like that today. You ain't doing a skit. You're not doing that traffic check today in Detroit. Agreed about Sid. Sid Rosenberg. I love Sid. Happy Friday to you and good evening. Dan Sileo here on the National Show. The national show when it comes to sports. The happy hour of sports talk. The happy hour of radio. your day's starting to wind down, you could just sit back, listen, and just be part of something that we sit around and have a great time and have a lot of fun. So we really appreciate you guys coming aboard. Happy hour time. Let's go, like Trevor says on our Twitch channel. By the way, reminds me, if you're on our social media platforms, please, we welcome you to chime in. Anything you want to bring up, we always go to our great friends there on our YouTube and our Twitch channel. If you're listening at one of our local affiliates, we really appreciate it through USA Radio Network. You can also stream the show with our friends at USA Radio Networks and the DanSileoShow.com. So there, I sold it. You know, platform, performer, all that stuff. Man, I was so terrible at it before when I was told, hey, you got to sell a website. You know, I'll never forget when I first got into broadcasting. You know, websites are going to become a major part of broadcasting. You know what my dumbass said? Not me. No way. Nobody's going to use a web. Yeah, okay. It shows you my prognosticating. Okay. Yeah, websites, half of our industry when it comes to, you know, advertising buys now is all through the internet now. So it shows you what I knew back then. So we really appreciate now having all the platforms. You know, I was talking to our friends at USA Radio today. You know what they were asking me? So, Dan, you're not just doing a radio show, right? I go, yeah, I do a streaming show. I have a website and I have a podcast. And I'm starting to think to myself, I didn't even know I had all that stuff. I didn't even really realize it. But yeah, I guess so, huh? That's where we are today. All right. So, hey, a lot of stuff to get to. By the way, one of my dearest friends, former Outland Trophy winner, one of the legendary Dallas Cowboys, and he is a national champion from the University of Oklahoma. Our dear friend Tony Casillas will join us. That'll be in hour number 2. We'll talk a little Cowboys with him. All right. So do you know the story, before I get into the sports world, the story that's going around with Mike Richards, who stepped down today as the future Jeopardy host, take over for Alex Trebek? Turns out the guy loaded the deck. He's like the executive producer of Jeopardy, and it was kind of rigged anyway. But there's been some, like, people digging from the ringer that found some, like, uncool comments that he made on a couple podcasts like a decade ago. And here's another example of cancel culture at its finest. I could dig up things on President Biden, Trump, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Lindsey Graham, Dan Sileo, I don't know, Stephen A. Smith. Pick a guy. You could cancel anybody today. You think we're all Teflon from it? Absolutely not. So what is the purpose of cancel culture? Is it to go after certain people who back political agendas? What is it? Because anybody, you know, if you really wanted, you could cancel Howard Stern. All the crap he did in his past. How about Bill Maher? Name a guy. Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert. I could go down the list. Mike Richards is just a pawn in this whole thing here. You know why they ended up wanting him out, Sony? And by the way, he's still the executive producer of Jeopardy, so it's not like he's going anywhere. I guess he was the executive producer for things like Price is Right and some other shows too. And he's had this track record, and I think he's been there only a year or 2 years now as the executive producer. So he's still staying on, and he's going to have a hand in who ends up getting that job. You know what my money's on? I'll tell you who my money's on, Robin Roberts. Because Alex Trebek wanted an African-American woman to take over after he was gone. That was like something that he wished would happen. And I can't think of anybody better. And I love Robin Roberts. Robin Roberts started in sports, obviously, at ESPN. She's a brilliant broadcaster. She's got compassion. She's cool to listen to. And I think it'd be a great gig for her. I don't have a problem with Robin Roberts. Be great. By the way, he was a hell of a pitcher for the Phillies. No, I can't. I'm done. That different guy, different person. Anyway, so I saw that and I'm like, another example. I mean, but how do we get there? How do we pick can you help me on this one? How do we choose who gets canceled and who doesn't get canceled? I want someone to help me on this. Okay, somebody does blackface and it doesn't matter. They get to keep their job. Governor of Virginia. The talk show hosts on the late night shows keep their gig. How do we get to that point where we go, you hear those comments Sileo made a couple years ago? Those weren't very cool. Then you hear Stephen A. Smith and you're like, well, you know what? That's okay. We're going to punt. How does it get there? Is it race related? Is it political party related? How do we pick and choose that? That's the thing that really still to this day, I still can't shuffle the deck on and say, okay, when I pull a card out, he goes and he stays. What is the parameter for that? Here's another example of not covering people the same way. Can you imagine if President Trump were going through the week that Joe Biden just went through? Can you imagine what Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer would be doing right now? By the way, did you also hear what the FBI said today? I was floored when I heard this. The FBI said it wasn't an insurrection on January 6th. The FBI exonerates people? Since when? I didn't know they had a courtroom over at the J. Edgar Hoover building. Since when do they exonerate people? That's not their gig. And I'm not saying it was. I'm saying, wait a minute here. How did that get there? Out of nowhere. The FBI came out today. And by the way, that's not going to be reported in too many places because people made a career out of it for these last 7 months, saying it was an insurrection. Now the FBI is saying there's no tie-in to anybody on an organized thing in January. And yet people ran with that story too in the media. This isn't Dan Sileo with an opinion. The Federal Bureau of Investigation came out today and basically said it had no tie into an insurrection. That's crazy. Look it up. Google it. Well, maybe Google won't post it because you know how they are today. They'll post Taliban things and Twitter will have Taliban accounts. But the 45th president of the United States can't have a Twitter account. Pretty crazy. You know why, though? The Taliban, you want to hear something crazy? The Taliban behave on Twitter more than Trump did. That's why he keeps his account. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. They cut heads off, and they're beating Americans at the airport, but they get to keep their Twitter account because you know why? They behave on Twitter, and they don't break any Twitter violation codes. Oh, okay. But you can beat people in real life and cut heads off and make women wear those crazy veils. Okay. I like how you think. I mean, as long as you abide by the Twitter rules, we're good. Once you break those Twitter rules, what if you cut a head off? That don't break Twitter rules. I was like, wait a minute here. I've seen people's accounts taken away because they post something when it came to like the COVID stuff. Hey, and for the record, really what's going on in our country right now and in the world, the mask seems like the least thing that I care about right now. Between the border, Afghanistan, I can't get a straight answer out of the State Department, the Pentagon, or the White House. It just seems people are disconnected. I've never seen more chaos in my life. You know what? I'll tell you this too. There is no question. They voted for Joe Biden because they hated Donald Trump so much that they'd rather have that than that. Plain and simple, underscored, highlighted, no other reason. And by the way, am I taking a victory? No way. because we're all losing. No way. And what I don't like is I don't like the news stations or radio shows or people that are conservatives taking victory laps. We're all losing, you buttheads. We're losing face around the country right now. This is what I talk about when you crap on your coach or on your captain or on your president. We're all looking like ass bags. Get your head out of your rear ends, man. We look like we don't have our you-know-what together. And the world relies on us to have our... Seriously, man, some of these countries and people around the world rely on us to have our S together. And we don't have it. I don't want him to... How in the world would you... Look, I know many people don't like the guy. Or, excuse me, I'll say this. A little over half of the country likes him. And a little under half doesn't, because that's kind of what the election was, right? But, man, our media is not helping. When you're constantly putting out stories that aren't true, and you're not... Here, I'd like to ask you a question on these so-called Twitter rules, too. Cancel culture. So we now find out that it wasn't an insurrection by the FBI. How does Twitter allow those stories to go on when we're talking about misinformation? You allowed those stories to be posted. Google did too. And now the Federal Bureau of Investigation is now saying that that wasn't true. How do you allow that on Twitter and call that not misinformation? Again, somebody give me the handbook on how you pick cancel culture. I'd really like to know. Because once again, I'm confused on it. Can't get a straight answer from anybody anymore, especially the media. The media right now have to be the least trusted people with news I've ever seen. This is not the era of Cronkite. This is the era of dynamite news. I mean, you throw a stick of dynamite out there, it doesn't matter where it lands and who it hurts. Has no bearing because there's no... I have never in my life, and I guarantee you Chris has never seen it too, where, get this, back in the day, if he or I said anything that was not true on the air, we would be fired for it. Nowadays, there is absolutely no collateral damage on anything that you say. All right. I want to talk about preseason football here. We're going to hit on it. We'll do it next. You keep it here on the Dan Sileo Show. That's right. Thank God Almighty, I've never had that been pulled off the air. wonderful day and night. You know, I get on these little tangents. That's all. I get on these little tangents. You know, because I see the same things that you see. And I'm watching exhibition football this week. And I'm watching right now, I'm watching Bengals and Washington team thing. The NFL got hit with cancel culture. Had to get rid of the Redskins thing. I guess so. You know, I'm okay with that. If you think about it, you put it in perspective, probably so, right? Hey, man, you know, if it offends certain people, I'm all right with it. You know, the logo to me, the red-faced Indian on the helmet, that was probably over the line. Would I not say that? Would we not all say that, right? I mean, come on, okay, right? Red-faced Indian on an NFL helmet. You might want to change your logo. But I like this spear they used to have on it, too. I guess they're coming down. I guess the Commodores is one of the names. I think the Presidents is another one of the names because they're in Washington. Makes sense, I guess. I don't know. Why don't you just call them my old baseball team, the Washington Senators? Why not, you know? They took the Nationals, now the baseball team. Why don't you just take the Washington Senators? I think that'd be cool, right? You could put a capital thing on the helmet. I don't know if you wanted to completely get away from it and still use the colors. I don't know. Anyway, so I'm watching the difference in a team and how they prepare last night versus another team. We had a fun time on the stream show today, and I'll explain to you what I mean by that. You know, Philadelphia right now is just going crazy because their team last night got destroyed 35-0. And we were talking all day long about preparation. You know, and I brought this a little bit up last night. So when you suck and you're not very good, okay, and you're not good, do you think you shouldn't play your frontline guys? That's what Philly did last night. So you know what you did against the Bill Belichick football team? You lined up against a guy who's the most prepared coach. By the way, certain people in Washington, D.C. could take a lesson from Belichick. He's overprepared. Every scenario that he could face, he practices. Do you understand? That's preparation. It's not practicing your own plays. It's practicing for contingency plays. Gee. Boy, I think people in Washington, you might want to really talk to some of these NFL guys like Belichick. You know, his preparation is talking about, well, what if this guy gets injured? What if they're successful running the ball? What if they're successful here? What if the capital falls? What if the country falls? That's how he prepares. What if my quarterback gets injured? Leaders are all over the place for examples on how they prepare. Last night, I saw a young guy in Nick Sirianni not prepared. He went out there against the best coach in the history of the NFL and got his face smashed in. And you know what I heard? I heard all week long in the organized, quote, controlled scrimmages, the Eagles beat the Patriots. But then when it came to a game, the Patriots they took all the intel that they got from the Eagles, made them feel good about themselves, and beat the piss out of them. That's a great strategy. That was strategically done to Philadelphia last night. They made you feel good, and then they killed you in the end in the game. And they shut you out because you didn't know any better. That's lack of preparation. That's lack of not knowing the room. 35-0. Holy cow. The latest on Deshaun Watson. We'll hit on it. You keep it here on the Sileo Show. I'm sorry? How is he? Hold on. Oh, you'd be shocked. Every now and then, I have a bad, pina colada, man. It's not good for me too. Oh, let me tell you, man. You have big old coconut. No comment. Hey, do you want to go to the top of the hour? Yeah. No, we can do it. We can do it. I know you're not, but I'm all right with that. Sure. Yep. I hear you. Right. Okay. No. Yeah. No. We'll do it. You know what? Yeah, we'll do it Monday. Tuesday, I'm gonna have. By the way, we're getting Adam. By the way, Tuesday, we're having Adam Crowley live. Yeah. Oh no, you're batty right now. I'll tell you what. One thing that we do, and we've now brought in for the little Kongsters, is that we have a Happy Kong meal now. Yeah, you should see you get a little monkey inside your bag, and he's got these enormous coconuts. Oh, actually, they're bald. Oh yeah. Today's National Radio Day. Let's see here. I got an idea here. Dan Sileo, USA Radio Network. Trevor just reminded me, National Radio Day. What was the lineup you remember at QAM? This is radio station that I worked at. Legendary South Florida. Now it's nothing. They've destroyed it. Really, it's just, I mean, it's an O2 station now. What I mean by that is nobody hears it. And it's one of the highest frequency radio stations in South Florida. And they've completely destroyed it. When I was there, it was a 6-share plus station, 12 plus. Man, it just was enormously talented. But that's pretty much everywhere now. They really haven't done a good job at developing talent in radio in my business. They haven't. There's no show that gets massive numbers like they used to back in the day. I mean, there's Hanley and at KFI in Los Angeles. He's a guy that still pulls big numbers. Okay, I'm thinking guys like that. I'm talking 10 shares and Stern numbers like 22s and stuff like that. Okay, I mean, those guys are so far and few between what they used to be with local guys. Local radio back in, to me, local radio, me being in national radio today, you know, I want to do it now because you know why? Local radio's dead. It is. It's dead because you can't say anything any longer in local radio. Now, places like Philly, WIP is a spectacular, but you don't really have to be overly talented to be on that station. You could just do this. The Phillies suck. And everyone is going to go crazy on you. And or everyone's going to agree with you. It's one of those markets. Boston a little bit that way too. New York, you got to be somewhat entertaining. And so he's asking me about my QAM. When I first got to QAM, there's a guy that was there. His name was Neil Rogers, and so I. Wait a minute. Are you on the air? All right. So wait a minute. So I get a call from Joe Bell, this operations guy. I think there was a guy by the name of Reed there though too. That was the operations guy. Anyway, so I was working at WDAE in Tampa, and I was doing great. I was doing 10 shares again, local radio, killing it. Dan, you know you love Miami. How'd you like to come down here and do some radio for us here at WQAM? And I'm like, legendary call letters. You know, I've been very fortunate in my career to have worked at KGO Radio, to work at the Mighty 1090 where Wolfman Jack was, and to work at WDAE, the first radio station in Florida, and the legendary WQAM. And so I was like, and I knew the letters, and I was like, yeah, okay. You know, and so I go, so what shift are we talking? Well, you know, we were thinking mornings, but we have a guy in there now, and we're using Joe Rose, but there's a guy that's like doing a show now. We'd like to give you a show like either before him or after him. And I'm going like, okay, well, who is it? And I said, no, I think I remember myself even saying, as long as I'm not going to be anywhere near Neil Rogers, I think I'd be okay with it. And they went, no, you're going to bookend him, maybe before or after. And I went like this. I said, so I'll tell you what, I go, if we're going to do it that way, I wouldn't mind being the lead, and I don't want to follow anything he said. And you have to understand, and I'm not going to go into the particulars of what he usually said on his show, but it was salty. And how about this? That show in a million years could never be put on the radio today. You could never put a Neil Rogers radio show on the radio today. Not a chance. You know how you couldn't put All in the Family on a normal like network today? It would have to be somewhere on cable access or something like that. You could never put a Neil Rogers. And Neil was a homosexual. And he made it very evident that you knew that. And he would talk about this all the time. And by the way, his execution and his delivery was spectacular. His bits were great. So I get down there, and I get down to QAM. And Rogers heard that. I go, as long as I'm nowhere near Neil, he heard that. And so he has me come into his studio. And I go like this, Chris. I go, how you doing, how you doing, Neil? How you doing, Mr. Rogers? And he's like this. He goes, so I hear you don't like homosexuals. And I went like this. That's not what I said. I go, I never said that. He goes, well, I hear that you don't want to be anywhere near me. I said I didn't say that either. I said that I don't know if my sports show would fit. He goes, that's not exactly how I heard it. And I'm going like, wait a minute here. He goes, so what, you don't like homosexuals? And I go, that's not what I said. Dude. Hey, wait a minute. No. He just, and like, he threw me. And so I said, I go, you know, Neil, it's not anything about homosexuals. I don't think I like you. He started laughing. And then, oh, yeah. I had to show up. And I said, Neil, you know what? I don't think it's anything to do with homosexuals. I think it's everything to do with you. I don't like you. And he starts just out laughing. And he goes, kid, that's exactly what this stupid ass station needs. And I said, and I went like this, Neil, I got to tell you, man, I'm so afraid right now. I was so afraid. Because he was just going to continue to pile on me until I fought for myself. And I think basically you have to understand, Trevor, everyone listening now, this is how these old school guys, they would go after you. And if you didn't stand up for yourself, they would run you over on the air every single day. And my relationship with Neil, until he passed away, was a great one. I had a great relationship with the guy. He wasn't the most likable guy on the planet, but I'll tell you what, my relationship with him, I really liked him, and I learned a lot from him because his execution of his radio show was absolutely spectacular. Oh, gee, this was like 2011, something like that. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. This was after Phil Hendry. I know Phil very well, too. Absolutely. Oh, Phil Hendry is one of the greatest radio guys that ever lived. Phil, but Neil was sharper. I mean, sharper edges. And I think it got more of a reaction. But here was my always big issue with Neil. You couldn't take his show out of Miami and it be a successful show anywhere else. You could take Phil Hendry anywhere, and Phil's going to be more successful because Phil knows how to work the room. I don't think really Neil cared about that. And so that's one story. I got another one for you here too. Ready? Here, let me throw this at you here too. Let me go here with you here. Yeah, 2000. Okay, yeah, this was more like 2009, Trevor. This was like 2008 in there, somewhere like that, right before I showed up. It was like 2008, Chris. Yeah, because Trevor just reminded me he passed away in 2010. Yeah. Yeah, Phil did give him a nice eulogy. He did. Let me throw this at you here. So here's another one. So a national radio day here. I got another radio story for you. So I show up. This is my first gig. My first big, gigantic gig in my radio career. I got to tell you how I did it too. So this guy by the name of Ken Barry, who was the program director at KGO, and I was doing radio. This is where Chris started too, in Las Vegas. And I started with this family called the Grissards. Was that their? David Grissard, right. He had like a thing called American Sports Radio Network. Yeah, Al Bernstein was on it, right. Tim Everett, the voice of the Dodgers, was on there. He and I are still friends to this day. So I had started doing radio, and I was on this radio signal called KDON. And this thing, KDON, is a blowtorch, and it just goes everywhere, dude. It goes everywhere. And so Mickey Luckoff, who was the general manager of KGO Radio, heard me, and he goes like this to me: "What the hell are you doing in Vegas?" I go, "I'm living here." he goes like this. He goes, "Why don't you come up? Let's see if we got something for you." So I told my wife, I go, "Mickey Luckoff, he said he really liked me." Now, know this, he never really said he had a job for me. So we packed up everything and we went to San Francisco. My wife looked at me finally. She goes, "So when is your interview?" I go like this. "Well, I go, yeah." I go, "Well, I have to get one." She goes, "You don't have an interview and you left your jobs?" I was working for Ron Futrell doing the news. I was doing this. Colin Coward was in Vegas at the time. Yes, we were all on the air at the same time. And so get this. I go, "Yeah." So I call up Ken Berry. I go, "Ken, Ken goes, "Okay, bring me your DAT." We had these little things, these little DATs. These little DATs, they're like little tiny like squares, and you put them into this cassette player. Okay, and you put them in these little. I would go and do interviews on these little DAT players when I ended up in San Francisco covering the Giants. Anyway, so I leave this DAT on the table for Ken. Ken goes, "I'll call you back. I'll let you know what I think." Next day, he calls me. He goes, "Hey, I got an opening." I go, "You're kidding." And he goes, "No, I'll pay you $700 a week." I said, wow. I go, "What do you mean?" And he goes like this. He goes, "Yeah, you do updates. You'll be on the morning show with Jim Dunbar and Rosie." And I go like this, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah, come in. You can do it." Joe Starkey's there. I forget the other guy was there. So I show up and I'm wearing Zubas and I have a t-shirt on. It's 4:30 in the morning. I walk in, Jim Dunbar's got a suit on with a tie. He's got a sweater. I have a pair of, wait a minute, Trevor, I got one better for you. They were Bengals Zubas, those bright orange with the stripes on them. And I walk in there and I've got sneakers on with the tongue out. Dude, wait a minute. This is even better here. I show up in there. This is like 90. This is like 95. I got the tongue, I got the tongue out of my shoes. I've got like the laces are off. My pants are drooping. I show up there and this guy, oh my God, this guy's got almost like a three-piece suit on, like he's going to a funeral. And so I'm sitting there. I get through my first update. I do it, and he goes like this. So Jim Dunbar goes like this. "Hey, man, what the hell is this? What do you think you're at? You think you're at, like, you're going to a workout or something?" You got to know Jim Dunbar won like the Edwin R. Murrow Award numerous times. And for the record, he was also the television guy that the Zodiac Killer called. And so this guy's a legendary broadcaster. And I knew who he was. Their show was number one. John Madden used to go on it all the time. And so I was like, he goes like this, "Kid, you never make it. You never make it." He's saying this stuff to me. "Never make it. Look at how you dress. You dress like a bum." So I'm going through the first hour like this. He's just shaking his head going, "Holy cow, this is terrible." And I'm just doing this, man. I'm like, no, I wasn't in the booth. I was in the studio with him. Even more intimidating. This is my first giant. I'm in the number 5 market at the time in the country. And I'm in here, and this guy's shaking his head going, "This sucks." And I go, he's saying it out loud. So finally, hour 2 comes, and I do this. After my broadcast, I say something, and he starts shaking his head. And I go, "Hey, Jim, you know what, man? Let me tell you something. You can kiss my ass, okay? You can kiss my ass. You know what? And by the way, do you think anybody even knows what you're talking about? I mean, you're talking about something in the 1910s. Nobody even knows anything you're saying." He looked over at me. He goes, "Kid, we're going to get along well." I went, oh my God, Mr. Dunbar, I was so afraid. Chris, I almost fainted. I was so scared. And my Zubas. Yeah. Oh my God, I was so afraid after I said all those things. But I learned a lesson from some of the greatest broadcasters of all time. I'll hit on some more on the preseason here. Keep it right here on the Dan Sileo Show. Oh, I could do a full hour on being around Ray, being around Howard and all that. Yeah. Yeah, he loves comic books. You know what Rush liked? Rush likes talking baseball. Snurdly. I might tell my Rush story. I got another Rush story, man. Gabe Hobbs reminded me of it the other day. Like he said, I could do probably 5 hours on it, just being around some of these dudes. How about Art Bell? Yeah, well, look at the time slot he was in. If you knew Art, you'd like him. I knew him, and he's a sweetheart of a guy. Sweetheart of a guy he was, man. Sweetheart of a guy. Yeah, you know what though? Premier kept begging him to come back. That's right. Dan Sileo, USA Radio Network, National Radio Day, and Chris O just said it. I could do 5 hours of just the people that I've been involved in radio with. Honestly, I've met them pretty much all. Glenn Beck. You know what? I think I've told this story though, but Beck was really a maniac, and I got to tell you this. So, I was working WFLA. There's another signature station in Tampa and around the country. It's one of the best news stations of all time, and they had taken this guy, Mark Larson, off. And they came to me and they said, Dan, would you like to do afternoon drive for WFLA, 970 WFLA? And I was doing mornings on WDAE. I was killing it. And I went, and funny, I've had people here on my YouTube channel say, Sills, you should do a little bit more politics. You know what? I've done it before in the past. So they came to me and they go, hey, you know what? We may have a guy that we're getting out of New Haven. He's at a rock station right now. I go, a rock station? You're going to put him on FLA. And so Gabe goes, yeah, you got to hear him. I want you guys to be friends. I go, oh, just like that, right? You know me. I don't like anybody. and he goes, yeah, okay. And so I start doing the show, and all of a sudden he walks in the studio, and he sits down, and I'm in the middle of a segment. I go, and I go like this, and Gabe walks in, so I kind of knew it was a setup. And so I go, excuse me, who are you? He goes, I'm Glenn Beck. And I go like this. I go, excuse me, but that doesn't really mean anything to me. Who are you? And he goes, oh, no, I'm a rock and roll DJ out of New Haven. And I go like this. So can I help you? And he goes, well, I'm here to help. I go, I don't need any help. That would have been great. I wish I would have said that right there. Go get me a cup of coffee with 2 lumps of sugar, okay, and a little cream. That would have been great. Then he turns it around, though, and he goes, I've listened to you. You're spectacular on the radio. And I'm in here, just sitting in here. I want to watch you do the show because, to me, I see how you do yours. And I go, okay, whoa. This is on the air, and I'm going, okay, listen, brown nosing will get you nowhere with me. And so we started going back and forth, and it was generically done well. And we got to the first break, and Gabe goes, perfect. No idea. It actually taught me a little bit more about interacting with a guy in the room. So for the first couple months, he and I were doing a show in the afternoons on WFLA. Finally, I just said, this is too much. I can't do split shifts like this. I just can't. I'm doing morning. Thank you, Chris. I can't do morning drive, and I can't turn around and do afternoon drive for 3 hours like that and put a great product on, you know? I can't do it. Yeah, absolutely, especially in those kind of markets like that. You know, I was number 2 next to Bubba in morning drive in Tampa, and I was fighting him for 1. So anyway, so he goes like this. Our building was exceptional. Finally, man, after a couple months, man, ratings come out, man. He's got 0-2s. And he goes like this to me, and they're starting to give him some, you know, hey, we need to get this picked up here. I looked over at him, and I go, who put you in that chair? He goes, Gabe. I go, don't sweat it. And he goes, you think? I go, nobody cares what anybody says in this building except Gabe Hobbs. Okay? If Gabe says you're good, and I know you're good, Sills, man, I don't know my ratings. I go, listen to me. Okay? You're good. And stop with that phony voice. I go, you know that phony radio guy voice? This is not DJ radio, dude. Just talk to the guys. He changed it around, and he started doing 15 shares. And Glenn Beck and I are friends. And Glenn Beck and I are friends to this day. Yeah. Yeah, I told him, I go, that DJ voice of yours, guy, get rid of that thing. That thing is just not going to cut it, man. So, like you said, dude, I could sit around and I was in a room with Rush Limbaugh for a week. But I'll tell you this, Rush in the breaks, he's always looking at box scores. He loves talking baseball. My God almighty. Rush Limbaugh could do a rate. He could easily have been, I'll tell you this. Rush Limbaugh could have been the greatest sports talk radio host of all time, if he so chose. He could have been the greatest. His delivery was spectacular. It was just tremendous. So good, man. So good stuff. All these stuff. Neil Rogers, Jim Dunbar, Glenn Beck, and Rush Limbaugh. All right. Hey, we will reset. A lot of football stuff going on. Keep it right here on the Dan Sileo Show. Yeah.